Chapter 1. The Lonely Millionaire in the Empty Mansion. The wind whispered through the ancient trees surrounding the Blackwell estate, rustling the leaves as if trying to fill the emptiness that lingered within the vast space. The mansion stood proudly atop a hill, isolated from the bustling city below. Each night, as darkness fell, the place resembled a forgotten fortress, cold and desolate. Ethan Blackwell, the master of the estate, sat silently in his office on the second floor. His eyes drifted towards the large window, where the city lights flickered and blended into the shadows of the night. A glass of red wine swirled gently in his hand, reflecting his piercing blue eyes, empty and distant. 42 years old, and all I have is this silence. Ethan's name was known across the city. Blackwell Real Estate, the empire he had built, was the leading real estate firm in the region. Towering skyscrapers bearing his name stood tall, symbols of power and success. Yet within the grand mansion, his greatest achievement, Ethan lived like a solitary wanderer. Nothing seemed to fill the void inside him. 3 years earlier, the world had darkened the moment Ethan stepped out of the clinic. "We're sorry, but the chances of you having children are extremely low. You can explore alternative methods, but nothing is guaranteed." The doctor's words echoed vividly in his memory. Ethan had nodded silently, leaving without another word. That night, he drove aimlessly through the city's crowded streets, but the cold inside him mirrored the bitter winter wind. A man of immense wealth and influence, yet unable to have children. From that moment, Ethan distanced himself from relationships, fleeting romances, extravagant parties. Everything became a facade to hide his emptiness. Friends encouraged him to find a partner, someone who could understand and walk alongside him. But Ethan no longer believed in such things. "I don't need a family just to fulfill some obligation. If I can't have children, what's the point of it all?" The Blackwell Mansion was originally designed to house a large family. Now the vast estate, spanning thousands of square meters, was inhabited by a few staff members. Most of the rooms remained locked, collecting dust over time. Lavish furnishings and priceless art pieces lining the walls could not warm the cold that seeped into every corner. Ethan lived like a shadow among his possessions. Each night, alone, he would sit in his study or the grand living room, immersed in the dim glow of amber lights, sipping wine as the hours slipped by. His wine cellar could serve hundreds of guests, but there was no one to share even a single glass. Sometimes Ethan wondered, was this the price of success? The city below thrived with life, but within the mansion, time stood still. "Mr. Blackwell, here's your schedule for tomorrow." The voice of his elderly butler echoed from the doorway, pulling Ethan back to the present. He gave a faint nod, signaling acknowledgement without turning around. As the footsteps faded down the hall, Ethan exhaled deeply, his gaze fixed on the darkened garden below. Ethan despised pity and refused to let anyone witness his loneliness. To the world, he was a powerful figure, a symbol of triumph, but only Ethan understood the battles within his heart. That night, long after the city had succumbed to slumber, Ethan remained beside his empty glass of wine. His eyes lingered on the window, where the vast estate stretched beneath the shroud of night, where silence had become his only companion. Welcome to Soul Stories. Today we bring you a heartwarming tale. Let us know which city you're tuning in from around the world. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to catch more meaningful stories. Chapter 2. A Chance Encounter at the Cafe. The afternoon rain poured down unexpectedly, each drop landing heavily on the streets. Ethan Blackwell drove slowly through a quiet alley, his gaze drifting lazily over the streams of water sliding down his windshield. For the first time in months, he felt weary of the office and the endless meetings that consumed his days. As the traffic light glowed red, Ethan pulled his car over by the curb. His eyes caught sight of a small cafe nestled at the corner of the street. Its wooden sign, aged and weathered, read, "Maya's Cafe," in delicate hand-carved letters. A tiny cafe like this still survives in the middle of the city, he thought. With no particular plan, Ethan decided to step inside, seeking shelter from the rain and perhaps a moment of quiet. The bell above the door chimed softly as he entered. The cafe was modest but warm, filled with the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee. A few patrons sat scattered across the room, each lost in their own world. Behind the counter stood Maya, the cafe's owner and barista. She moved with quiet efficiency, balancing trays and steaming cups with ease. Maya appeared to be in her early 30s, not striking in the conventional sense, but she possessed a quiet charm. Her face carried a kind softness, though her deep-set eyes reflected a hidden weariness. Despite that, she wore a gentle smile as she served customers, masking any exhaustion beneath her calm exterior. Her apron was worn but clean, and her dark hair was tied neatly at the nape of her neck. Ethan chose a table by the window. The rain outside continued to fall, forming delicate patterns on the glass. Moments later, Maya approached. "Good afternoon. What can I get for you?" Ethan glanced up, and for a brief second their eyes met. "An Americano, please." "Thank you," he replied, his voice low but steady. Maya nodded, flashing a polite smile before returning to the counter. 10 minutes later, she returned with his drink. Ethan took a sip, his brow lifting slightly as he noticed the coffee was lukewarm. As Maya passed by to clear a nearby table, Ethan spoke casually. "The coffee? It's not very hot." Maya paused, turning to him with an apologetic but unfazed expression. "I'm sorry. We've been busy today, and I couldn't bring it out sooner," she admitted with a light chuckle. "But you know, I only have 2 hands." Ethan blinked, caught off guard. Most people in his world would make excuses or shift the blame. But Maya was different. She neither defended herself nor appeared bothered by his comment. She simply acknowledged the reality without pretense. "It's fine," Ethan said, leaning back in his chair. "I'm not the type to get upset over a cup of coffee." Maya smiled softly, her gaze lingering on Ethan's face just a second longer than necessary, as if trying to understand him. "Thank you for understanding," she replied before slipping back to her task. Ethan stayed at the cafe for another hour, watching Maya as she moved about the room. Every action was precise, from the way she wiped down the counter to how she refilled water glasses without a sound. No matter how exhausted she seemed, she never lost her composure or her gentle demeanor. As Ethan left, he left a generous tip on the counter. Maya simply bowed her head in gratitude without questioning or showing curiosity about his gesture. There was something about her that lingered in Ethan's thoughts. Driving home through the rain, her image and the sincerity of her smile replayed in his mind. It had been a long time since someone had piqued his curiosity, an unfamiliar sensation in his otherwise monotonous life. "Maybe I'll stop by that cafe again," Ethan thought as his car disappeared into the misty afternoon. Chapter 3: A Strange Proposal. The rain continued to drizzle over the narrow city streets that afternoon. Ethan Blackwell once again found himself at the familiar cafe, where he had become a regular over the past few weeks. Maya had grown accustomed to his visits. Whenever Ethan arrived, she personally took his orders. Not because he was a special customer, but because she sensed something different about him. Beneath the calm, stoic exterior, Maya saw traces of loneliness. Today, the cafe was quieter than usual. Ethan settled into his usual corner by the window, watching as Maya wiped down the counter. When she approached with his cup of coffee, Ethan lifted his gaze, signaling for her to sit. "Maya," his voice was deep and firm, "can you sit for a moment?" Maya hesitated, surprised by his request. Curiosity flickered in her eyes as she pulled out the chair across from him, carefully removing her apron and placing it on her lap. "Is something wrong, Mr. Blackwell?" she asked gently, a slight note of caution in her tone. Ethan swirled the coffee in his cup thoughtfully before speaking. "I want to hire you to work for me." Maya nearly dropped the spoon she was holding. "Hire me?" She raised an eyebrow as if unsure she had heard him correctly. Ethan nodded, leaning back in his chair. His voice grew clearer, more deliberate. "I need someone to help care for my house. You were the first person that came to mind." A soft laugh escaped Maya's lips, part amused, part puzzled. "You must be joking. I'm just a cafe worker, not a housekeeper or personal assistant." Ethan shook his head, his gaze serious. "No, I'm not joking. You're diligent, careful, and honest. I've noticed that in the way you work here. My house, it's large and empty. I need someone reliable." Maya fell silent, carefully considering his unusual offer. She barely knew Ethan, but the job was undeniably tempting. The pay will be 3 times what you make here, Ethan added, as if sensing her hesitation. Maya's eyes widened slightly. Life hadn't been easy for her. She was a single mother raising her young son, Leo, alone. The constant juggle between rent, school fees, and bills weighed heavily on her. Her fingers absently fiddled with the edge of her apron. Ethan, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not sure if I'm suited for this. Managing a large house isn't something I've ever done. Ethan shrugged. You don't need experience. I need someone careful and trustworthy. I'm not fond of people who pretend to be something they're not. Maya studied him for a long moment. Behind Ethan's composed exterior, she sensed sincerity and a loneliness he wasn't trying to hide. At last, she exhaled softly and nodded. All right, I'll give it a try. But you should know, I have a young son. If this job interferes with his well-being, I'll have to step away. For the first time, Maya saw Ethan's expression soften. A faint smile appeared, relaxing the sharp lines of his face. That won't be a problem. You can bring Leo along if you'd like. My house is more than big enough for the two of you. Something about Ethan's words reassured her. When do I start? Tomorrow, Ethan replied, his eyes glinting faintly in the cafe's warm glow. I'll give you the address. Clara, my former housekeeper, will guide you through the routine. Maya stood up, a small smile tugging at her lips. Thank you, Ethan. I hope I won't disappoint you. Ethan took a sip of his coffee, watching as she returned to her work. For the first time in years, he felt like he had made the right decision. Chapter 4. A New Life at the Mansion. The next morning, as the sun cast soft golden rays over the city, Maya and Leo stood before the grand iron gates of the Blackwell estate. The mansion loomed atop the hill, encircled by towering trees, exuding both magnificence and a distant chill. Leo clutched his mother's hand tightly, his wide eyes fixed on the sprawling house before him. Mama, this house is huge, Leo whispered, his voice laced with awe and a hint of apprehension. Maya smiled gently, giving his hand a reassuring squeeze. It is, but remember what I told you. No running around, okay? The gates creaked open slowly, and Clara, the longtime housekeeper of the Blackwell estate, emerged to greet them. She was a stern woman in her 50s, her sharp gaze scanning Leo carefully. Maya, I presume? Clara's eyes flickered to Leo. And this must be your son? Yes, his name is Leo. I hope you don't mind. I had no one to watch him, Maya said apologetically, her voice soft but earnest. Clara did not respond immediately. She simply gave a curt nod. Follow me. I'll show you around. Inside, the mansion was vast but cold. Antique paintings lined the long hallways, and crystal chandeliers reflected faint glimmers of light onto the polished wooden floors. Maya felt the weight of emptiness that lingered in every corner. Clara led them to a modest room reserved for Maya and Leo. It wasn't large, but it was warm and comfortable, with a window overlooking the garden behind the mansion. Thank you, Mrs. Clara, Maya said with a slight bow. I promise to do my best here. Clara merely offered a small smile before leaving, her footsteps fading down the corridor. Leo bounced onto the bed, giggling. Mama, this place is awesome. Maya sat beside him, brushing his soft hair aside. I'm glad you like it, but remember, this is where I work, okay? Maya's duties were not overly demanding, cleaning, organizing, and tidying the rooms throughout the mansion. Each morning, Ethan left early for work and often returned late, rarely crossing paths with Maya or Leo. But one afternoon, as Maya arranged fresh flowers in the drawing room, Leo ran in with a worn rubber ball in hand. Mama, Mr. Ethan's back, Leo whispered excitedly. Maya turned to see Ethan standing by the fireplace, quietly observing them with his hands in his pockets. Good afternoon, Mr. Ethan, Maya greeted, feeling a hint of awkwardness in the air. Ethan gave a faint nod before turning toward the stairs. However, Leo dashed forward, tugging lightly at Ethan's sleeve. Mr. Ethan, do you want to play ball with me? Leo grinned, his eyes wide with hope. Ethan froze for a moment, his gaze drifting to the old rubber ball in Leo's hands. I don't really know how to play, Ethan replied, his voice awkward. It's easy. I'll teach you, Leo insisted, his innocent determination tugging at something deep within Ethan. Maya was about to gently intervene, but to her surprise, Ethan gave a slight nod. All right, But only for 10 minutes, he said, trying to maintain his usual composure. Leo beamed with excitement, grabbing Ethan's hand and leading him toward the garden. From the window, Maya watched quietly as the two ventured into the garden. Leo's laughter echoed across the lawn as he darted around, the ball bouncing unevenly across the grass. Ethan, hesitant at first, gradually found himself engaging in the game, his movements less rigid with each passing minute. For the first time, Maya saw Ethan smile. It was faint but unmistakably genuine. The afternoon passed gently. As the game ended, Leo collapsed onto the grass, panting but grinning from ear to ear. "You're pretty good at this," Leo said with a cheeky grin. Ethan chuckled softly, ruffling the boy's hair. "You're a good teacher." Maya stepped into the garden, calling Leo inside. "Thank you, Mr. Ethan," she murmured as they passed him. Ethan offered a simple nod, but there was a softness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. From that day forward, Ethan began spending more time with Leo. In the afternoons, instead of retreating to his study, he joined Leo in the garden or listened to the boy's endless stories about school and imaginary adventures. Maya noticed subtle changes in Ethan. He no longer seemed like the cold, distant man she had first met. And slowly, the once silent Blackwell mansion filled with the sound of Leo's laughter, the kind of joyful noise Ethan had long believed he would never hear in his life. Chapter 5. Quiet Affection. The Blackwell mansion gradually grew warmer with Maya and Leo's presence. Morning sunlight streamed through the large windows, casting a peaceful glow across the expansive living room. Ethan sat in his study, but his gaze often wandered toward the garden where Leo played. The boy's cheerful laughter echoed through the mansion, breaking the silence that had long engulfed the place. Maya was different. She quietly carried out her work, meticulously cleaning each corner and caring for the house as if it were her own. One afternoon, Ethan unintentionally walked into the living room and saw Maya sitting on the sofa, carefully mending Leo's old jacket. Sunlight poured over her hair, creating a scene of gentle serenity. The jacket was worn and faded, but Maya's hands moved patiently, stitch by stitch. Ethan paused, silently observing her. "That jacket looks pretty old. Why don't you just buy him a new one?" Ethan's voice broke the quiet, calm but curious. Maya looked up, slightly surprised. "Leo loves this jacket. It was a birthday gift from his grandfather before he passed away. I don't want to throw away something that holds his memory." Ethan approached and sat down across from her, his eyes resting on her hands. "You don't have to do everything by yourself," he said gently, though there was a firmness in his tone. Maya smiled, but there was a sadness hidden behind it. "I'm used to it. That's what being a single mother is like." Ethan said nothing. He understood that feeling. Though their situations were different, he too had lived alone for years, a solitude few could understand. A few days later, while passing through the living room, Ethan once again saw Maya sitting on the floor, organizing Leo's toys. Leo lay napping on the sofa, his innocent face soft with the hint of a smile in his sleep. Ethan paused, his gaze softening as he watched Leo. "Maya," he called quietly, stepping closer and lowering himself beside her. "Yes, Mr. Ethan?" Maya glanced up, still carefully placing each toy into a wooden box. "I wanted to ask, why did you accept this job?" Ethan asked, his eyes meeting hers. Maya hesitated for a brief moment, then sighed softly. "For Leo," she answered. "The cafe job wasn't enough to take care of him. When you offered, I knew it was a chance for Leo to have a better life. I'll do anything for my son." Ethan studied her intently. She wasn't like the women he had known. No hidden motives, no interest in wealth. Maya was simply a mother, devoted to her child. That evening, Ethan sat by the window of his study, reflecting on Maya's words. A strange feeling stirred within him, something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in a long time. The next morning, Ethan visited a children's clothing store and picked out a new jacket for Leo. When he returned to the mansion, he handed it to Maya. "I thought Leo might like this," Ethan said, his voice carrying a trace of awkwardness. Maya looked at the jacket, then at Ethan, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Ethan, but I think Leo still prefers his old one," she said with a soft laugh, though she accepted the gift with genuine appreciation. Ethan nodded, saying nothing more. But deep down, he realized he had begun to cherish Maya and Leo more than he had expected. And without him noticing, quiet affection had slowly found its way into the heart of the once lonely man. Chapter 6. Storms from the Past. A gentle autumn morning cast soft sunlight through the towering trees, spilling into the Blackwell Mansion's living room. Maya sat with Leo on the rug, building a castle with wooden blocks. The boy's laughter echoed warmly, a sound that brought life to the once solemn space, something Ethan hadn't experienced in years. Ethan stood nearby, holding a cup of coffee, silently observing. He never imagined that the mere presence of Maya and Leo could transform the cold, lifeless house into something that felt alive. But peace is often fleeting. That afternoon, a sleek red sports car pulled up at the front gate. From it stepped Amanda, a woman who had once played a significant role in Ethan's life. Her heels clicked sharply against the stone path, an announcement of her sudden return. Ethan's brow furrowed as he glanced out the window. He hadn't anticipated Amanda's visit. The front door swung open, and Amanda entered with her signature radiant but calculating smile. "Ethan," she greeted confidently, her tone smooth. "It's been a long time." Ethan nodded, his voice steady and cold. "Amanda, I didn't expect you here." Amanda's gaze swept over Ethan, but it wasn't long before her eyes landed on Maya, who emerged from the kitchen, apron dusted with flour. "And who is she?" Amanda's eyes narrowed with curiosity and veiled sharpness. "Maya works here," Ethan replied, unwavering. Just then Leo bounded down the stairs, waving at Ethan with his small hands. "Uncle Ethan, I finished the castle. Ms. Maya helped me." Amanda's eyes flickered with surprise, her lips tightening as she processed the child's presence. Her expression soon shifted into something more sour. "So this is why you've been ignoring me," Amanda said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "A woman and her kid?" Maya lowered her head slightly, choosing not to engage. Ethan calmly set his cup down, his tone hardening. "Amanda, why are you here?" Amanda stepped closer to Maya, her eyes locked in thinly veiled condescension. "You know Ethan can't have children, right? Don't think you can take my place. I know him better than anyone." The room grew tense. Maya remained silent, though a flicker of unease crossed her face. Ethan stepped forward, positioning himself between the two women. His stare pierced through Amanda like ice. "Amanda," Ethan's voice was low, unyielding. "You left when I needed you most. Don't come back and disturb the peace I have now." Amanda's confidence faltered, not expecting Ethan's bluntness. "You think you'll be happy with her?" Amanda's voice trembled slightly, a hint of defeat evident. "I don't need your approval," Ethan replied, his gaze steady. "I make my own choices." Amanda stormed out, leaving behind silence in her wake. Maya glanced at Ethan, her voice soft. "I'm sorry if I caused any trouble." Ethan shook his head, his expression gentle. "It's not your fault. If anyone should apologize, it's me, for allowing my past to interfere with your life." Maya offered a small, understanding smile. "I don't mind. As long as Leo's happy, so am I." Ethan sighed quietly, but for the first time in years, a sense of tranquility washed over him. For once, the past no longer felt like a weight dragging him down, and a large part of that was thanks to Maya. Later that evening, as firelight flickered in the hearth, Ethan sat on the sofa, watching Maya return from tucking Leo into bed. She eased into the armchair opposite him, the warm glow highlighting the quiet contentment on her face. "Is he asleep?" Ethan asked, breaking the silence. Maya nodded, folding her hands in her lap. "Yes, he always sleeps early after playing all day." Ethan's gaze shifted toward the hallway leading to Leo's room. "Leo, he's a good kid. I haven't met anyone quite like him." Maya chuckled softly, though a faint sadness flickered in her eyes. "He's special." Ethan leaned forward slightly, curiosity nudging him. "You've done a remarkable job raising him. I know being a single mother isn't easy." Maya hesitated for a brief moment before exhaling softly. "Ethan, there's something I should tell you." Her voice quieted as she searched for the right words. Ethan's eyes softened, silently encouraging her to continue. "Leo isn't my biological son." Maya's words hung delicately in the room. Ethan blinked, surprised but attentive. "What do you mean?" Maya leaned back, gazing into the fire as memories surfaced. I adopted him when he was 2. It was during one of the hardest times in my life. Ethan remained quiet, letting her continue. I had just lost my mother and nearly everything else. I was barely getting by when I volunteered at an orphanage one evening, and that's where I met Leo. Maya's lips curved into a bittersweet smile, though her eyes shimmered with lingering sorrow. He sat quietly in the corner, not crying or playing with the others. He just watched the window. There was something in his eyes that wouldn't let me walk away. I knew I couldn't leave him behind. Ethan reclined, letting her words settle in the space between them. It wasn't easy, Maya continued. I was young, broke, and many doubted I could care for him. But I couldn't say no. I fought for him, and somehow, he became mine. Ethan met her gaze, admiration glinting in his eyes. So you raised him on your own? Maya nodded. I worked long hours, juggling 2 jobs. Some months, I couldn't afford toys or new clothes, but Leo never complained. He gave me the strength to keep going. Ethan smiled softly. Leo's lucky to have you. Maya's eyes widened slightly, caught off guard by his sincerity. You think so? I do, Ethan said firmly. It's not where Leo came from that matters. It's the love you've given him. That's what makes you his mother. Maya lowered her gaze, overwhelmed by his words. You've given Leo a home and love, Ethan added. That's more than enough. And I think you've given me something too. Maya glanced up, curiosity lighting her eyes. You've reminded me that family isn't just about blood. It's about connection. Maybe I won't have children of my own, but that doesn't mean I can't have a family. Maya's eyes glistened with emotion. Thank you, Ethan, she whispered. Ethan rose from his seat and approached her gently, taking her hand in his. Maybe our past led us here for a reason, Ethan said quietly. Maya's fingers tightened around his. In that moment, Ethan knew, whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. Chapter 7, The Secret Revealed. Ethan sat on the long sofa, his gaze fixed on Maya as she quietly took a seat beside him after putting Leo to bed. The fireplace crackled softly, its flames dancing across her face, casting a warmth that Ethan hadn't felt in years. Is he asleep? Ethan's voice was low, breaking the silence that had settled over the room. Maya nodded gently, smoothing out the hem of her dress. Yes, he always sleeps early after a day of playing. I think he wore himself out. Ethan smiled faintly, his eyes drifting toward the hallway leading to Leo's room. Leo? He's a good kid. I've never met anyone quite like him. Maya chuckled softly, though her gaze dimmed with quiet reflection. He's special. For a moment, Ethan said nothing, letting the stillness linger. Then his voice softened. You've done an incredible job raising him. I know being a single mother isn't easy. Maya lifted her head, her eyes meeting his. A flicker of hesitation passed over her face before she exhaled quietly. Ethan, there's something I need to tell you. She paused, carefully choosing her words. Ethan leaned forward slightly, resting his hands on his knees, waiting patiently. Leo isn't my biological son, Maya said, her voice calm but steady in the quiet room. Ethan blinked, momentarily surprised, but his gaze didn't waver. What do you mean? Maya leaned back, her eyes drifting toward the flickering fire. I adopted him when he was 2. At the time, I was going through one of the most difficult periods of my life. Ethan remained silent, giving her the space to continue. My family didn't have much, and after my mother passed away, I lost nearly everything. I was struggling to get by, barely making ends meet. One day I volunteered at an orphanage, just trying to do something, anything to distract myself, and that's when I met Leo. Maya smiled softly, but the emotion in her eyes revealed a depth of sadness Ethan could feel across the room. He sat alone in the corner, not crying or playing like the other children. He just stared out the window, as if he was waiting for someone who never came. There was something about him I couldn't ignore. From that moment, I knew I couldn't leave him behind. Ethan leaned back, silently absorbing her words. It wasn't easy to adopt Leo, Maya continued, her voice lowering. I had no savings, no stability. People told me I was too young, that I couldn't possibly raise a child on my own, but I couldn't walk away. Somehow I convinced them, and Leo became my son. Ethan's gaze lingered on Maya, admiration beginning to flicker in his expression. So, you've raised him alone ever since? Maya nodded. I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3. There were nights I barely slept, and months when I couldn't afford to buy him new clothes or toys. But Leo, he never complained. Not once. He gave me the strength to keep going. Ethan smiled gently, his voice softening. Leo is lucky to have you. Maya's eyes widened slightly, caught off guard by his words. You really think so? I do, Ethan said firmly. Not everyone could do what you've done. It doesn't matter where Leo came from. What matters is the love you've given him. That's what makes you his mother. Maya's lips parted slightly in surprise, as if she wasn't used to hearing such validation. You've given him a home, a family, and more love than some children ever experience. That's all that matters, Ethan added, his gaze steady. Maya lowered her eyes, blinking away the tears that began to gather. I know what loneliness feels like, Ethan continued after a pause. For a long time, I thought I'd live my life without a family. But Leo and you've shown me that family isn't always about blood. Maya lifted her head slowly, her eyes shimmering. You really believe that? She asked softly. Ethan nodded. Yes. I may not be able to have children of my own, but that doesn't mean I can't build a family. And right now, I think I want to create that, no matter what it takes. A single tear slid down Maya's cheek, glistening in the firelight. Thank you, Ethan, she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Ethan rose from his seat and crossed the small space between them. He reached out, gently taking her hand in his. We've both faced our share of hardships, he said quietly. But maybe everything that's happened has led us to this moment. Maya squeezed his hand, warmth blooming in her chest. And in that quiet, intimate moment, Ethan knew, no matter what lay ahead, they would face it together. Are you still following the story? If yes, comment Coca-Cola. Haha. Chapter 8, An Unexpected Miracle. Time passed swiftly, and a year later, Ethan and Maya held a small wedding in the garden behind the Blackwell estate. It was a warm spring afternoon, with sunlight gently casting over blooming flowers. Leo, dressed in a tiny black suit with polished shoes, dashed around the guests with a bright, infectious smile that seemed to capture the essence of the day's joy. Ethan stood in the garden, his eyes following Maya as she walked toward him. She wore a simple yet elegant wedding dress, her face glowing naturally. As they exchanged vows, Ethan's eyes shimmered with a happiness he once thought he'd never experience. When the ceremony ended, Maya held Leo's and Ethan's hands, stepping forward into their new life, a small family filled with love and laughter. One late afternoon, as the sun began to dip behind the treetops, Maya entered the living room where Ethan sat reading. Outside, Leo played in the garden with the toy car Ethan had given him. Maya paused by the doorway, watching Ethan for a moment as if she were hesitating. Finally, she took a deep breath and walked toward him. Ethan, Maya called softly. Ethan glanced up, offering her a gentle smile. Hey, what is it? Maya sat beside him, nervously fidgeting with the wedding ring on her finger. Reaching into her pocket, she pulled out a pregnancy test and placed it on the table before him. Ethan's eyes dropped to the test, lingering on the 2 unmistakable pink lines. He stared at it in silence, his gaze shifting from surprise to uncertainty. Is this yours? Maya nodded, her eyes reflecting a mix of hope and apprehension. I took it this morning, she said softly. I wasn't sure, but it looks like I might be pregnant. Ethan picked up the test, holding it as if trying to confirm something impossible. I don't know what to say, his voice trembled slightly. Maya squeezed his hand, feeling the slight tremor in his grip. I was surprised too, but we can go to the doctor to be sure. A few days later, Ethan and Maya sat together in the doctor's office. After a series of tests, the doctor smiled at them kindly. Congratulations to both of you. Maya is more than 2 months pregnant, the doctor announced, her tone calm but certain. Ethan sat frozen, his eyes widening as if struggling to process the words. Doctor, but I was told... Ethan hesitated, recalling previous consultations that had confirmed he couldn't have children. The doctor nodded knowingly. Sometimes medicine can't explain everything. This is one of those rare cases, but I can assure you the baby is perfectly healthy. Ethan turned to Maya, his eyes filled with disbelief and overwhelming joy. Did you hear that? Ethan's voice shook with emotion as he held Maya's hand. We're going to have a child. Tears welled in Maya's eyes as she smiled and nodded. I heard it. This is our miracle, Ethan. Ethan pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly as if to preserve the precious moment. Outside the clinic, Leo sat on a bench, his legs swinging as he waited. When Ethan and Maya stepped out, Ethan crouched down, lifting Leo into his arms with a wide smile. Uncle Ethan, what happened? Leo asked, his curious eyes scanning their faces. Ethan chuckled, brushing Leo's hair affectionately. You're going to have a little brother or sister soon, Leo. Leo's eyes lit up with excitement, and he threw his arms around Ethan's neck. As they drove home that evening, Ethan felt a sense of fulfillment he had long believed was out of reach. For the first time in years, he truly felt like he had found what he was missing, a real family. Chapter 9. The Perfect Family. Ethan's grand estate was now bathed in the soft glow of early morning light. The first rays of sunshine slipped through the curtains, gently illuminating the master bedroom where Maya lay resting after a long night. Beside her, Ethan cradled their two newborn daughters, his gaze filled with love and wonder. The two tiny angels had entered the world just hours earlier, and Ethan hadn't been able to take his eyes off them since. Their rosy skin and tiny fingers grasping at his shirt made his heart melt in a way he never thought possible. Maya smiled softly as she watched Ethan clumsily try to soothe the girls. You look like you're getting the hang of being a father already. Ethan leaned down, gently pressing a kiss to Maya's forehead. I still can't believe it. All of this. It feels like a dream I don't want to wake up from. Maya reached out, her hand tenderly cupping Ethan's face where tears still lingered. It's not a dream, Ethan. This is our life now. Ethan held the babies closer to his chest, his voice lowering but warm and full of sincerity. I once thought I'd always be alone, but you and the kids changed everything. Maya looked into his eyes, her smile radiating pure happiness. We created this miracle together, and you'll never have to be alone again. 7 months earlier, when Maya had told Ethan she was pregnant, it had taken him a long time to fully accept it as reality. But now, with the twins peacefully sleeping in his arms, Ethan knew his life had changed forever. Ethan's estate was no longer the cold, empty place it once was. The sound of Leo's laughter, the soft cries of the newborns, and the warmth of shared family meals had transformed the mansion into a true home. Leo ran into the room, eagerly tiptoeing to get a closer look at his baby sisters. Mom, they're so cute. Can I hold them? Ethan chuckled, lifting Leo so he could see them better. They're still too little, but one day you'll be an amazing big brother. Maya took Ethan's hand as the family sat together, cherishing the precious moment they had created. Ethan Blackwell, a man who once believed he'd never know the joy of family, had found the miracle he never thought possible. Sometimes miracles aren't grand gestures or extraordinary events. They bloom quietly from love, patience, and the smallest moments of tenderness. True happiness, Ethan realized, didn't stem from wealth or power, but from the presence of love and family. He had learned that family didn't have to be perfect or bound by blood. Sincerity and shared moments were enough to heal even the deepest wounds. Sometimes the greatest miracle in life is finding people who are willing to walk beside us and love us unconditionally. Thank you for following this story. Please rate it from 1 to 5 stars and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our Soul Stories channel. Your support is the motivation for us to continue bringing more great stories. Ha ha ha. Chapter 1. A Fateful Encounter. A sudden downpour blanketed Atlanta on a December afternoon, bringing with it a chill that crept through every crack and coated the windows of the small cafe nestled along the quiet street in a layer of mist. Pine Brew had been Lana Pierce's sanctuary for the past 3 years, a simple cafe with warm golden lights and the lingering aroma of freshly ground coffee in the air. Lana stood behind the counter, carefully drying each white porcelain cup. Outside, the rain drummed steadily on the awning, blending with the soft jazz playing from an old radio tucked into the corner of the cafe. She loved her job, even if it seemed unremarkable to others. For Lana, every day here was a quiet moment where she found peace. Far from the painful memories of her past, she had chosen Atlanta as a safe haven, a place to live a simple life, away from the noise and haste. That rainy afternoon felt like any other, until the cafe door swung open, letting in a gust of cold wind and the soft chime of the entry bell. Lana glanced up from the counter, her eyes briefly scanning the new arrival. A tall man in a charcoal gray suit stepped in, the fabric fitting snugly as if tailor-made. His dark brown hair was slightly tousled and raindrops still clung to his shoulders. Tyler Brooks entered, shaking his hair lightly as his gray-blue eyes swept over the room before settling on Lana. She didn't recognize him immediately. Perhaps the light from outside cast shadows over half his face, or maybe the years apart had blurred her memory of the boy she once knew. But Tyler remembered. With just one glance, his eyes brightened with recognition, realizing the woman behind the counter was none other than Lana, the childhood friend he had once been so close to. "Lana Pierce?" Tyler stepped toward the counter, his voice uncertain, as if afraid he might have mistaken her. Lana frowned slightly. The name sounded familiar, yet she couldn't place it right away. "It's me, Tyler Brooks. Do you remember?" In that moment, time seemed to stand still. The name Tyler Brooks stirred long-forgotten memories in Lana's mind. Endless summer days beneath the old oak tree in front of her house, laughter echoing across the fields, and the image of a young Tyler chasing after her whenever she climbed the highest branches. "Tyler," Lana gasped, her eyes widening in surprise. "Is it really you?" Tyler smiled, a familiar, unforgettable smile. But now that smile carried the weight of years and the maturity brought by life's twists and turns. "My goodness, how long has it been?" Lana set the cup down, wiping her hands on her apron before stepping out from behind the counter to stand in front of Tyler. 10 years, maybe close to that," Tyler replied, his eyes never leaving Lana, as if to confirm she was indeed standing before him. "You've changed so much," Lana said softly, offering a gentle smile. "You're nothing like the boy who used to chase me around the fields. And you," Tyler tilted his head slightly, "are still the same Lana." They stood there for a brief moment, allowing old memories to resurface. Outside, the rain continued to fall, creating a perfect backdrop for this unexpected reunion. "Would you like to sit down? I'll make you a cup of coffee," Lana offered, trying to keep her voice steady even as emotion swirled inside her. "I'd love that." Tyler nodded, choosing a table near the window, where he could look out at the small oak tree across the street. Lana brought him a steaming cup of black coffee. As she set it down, she noticed Tyler's quiet gaze fixed on her. "When did you move to Atlanta?" Lana asked, sitting across from him. 3 years ago, Tyler replied, gently stirring his coffee with a spoon. "My work is mostly here, but I never thought I'd see you again." Lana smiled faintly, glancing outside at the oak tree standing tall in the rain. "I didn't expect it either. Atlanta's a big city." Tyler nodded, but his eyes remained on Lana, as if he were contemplating something deeper. "Do you keep in touch with anyone from home?" Tyler's voice softened, tinged with a distant tone. Lana shook her head, her expression briefly clouded with sadness. "Not really. I prefer the quiet life here." Tyler understood. He didn't press further. Instead, they shifted the conversation to memories of their childhood, climbing trees, playing hide-and-seek beneath the oak, and stargazing on warm summer nights. By the time the clock struck near 7 p.m., the cafe had begun to empty. Lana glanced outside. The rain had eased, but the air remained chilly. "Would you like to take a walk? I'm finishing my shift soon," Lana suggested, untying her apron. Tyler smiled, standing and slipping into his coat. "Absolutely. I'd love to see if that old oak tree is still there." They stepped outside, the cold wind brushing against them. But with Tyler by her side, Lana felt a warmth she hadn't experienced in a long time. Their footsteps echoed softly along the rain-soaked pavement, leading them toward the old oak tree, where memories seemed to linger, as vivid and alive as ever. Welcome to Soul Stories. Today we bring you a heartwarming tale. Let us know which city you're tuning in from around the world. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to catch more meaningful stories. Chapter 2. A New Beginning. The Blossoming of Friendship. From that rainy afternoon onward, Tyler Brooks became a regular at Pine Brew. Every Tuesday and Thursday morning, and sometimes on weekends, he would appear right on time, entering with a gentle smile and greeting Lana with warm eyes. He always chose the corner table by the window, where he could gaze out at the old oak tree standing outside the cafe. Lana noticed that Tyler's presence never felt intrusive. On the contrary, every time she saw him sitting there, sipping his black coffee and occasionally reading a book, she felt an odd sense of calm. Tyler never pried into her life or asked too many questions. He was simply there, like an old friend she had unexpectedly crossed paths with. One crisp January morning, the sky was clear, but the lingering cold still hung in the air. Lana was busy handling the morning rush, but her eyes occasionally drifted to Tyler's usual spot. He sat quietly, as serene as ever, as if the world outside couldn't touch him. When the crowd thinned, Lana brought a fresh cup of coffee to Tyler's table. "It's cold today. Would you like to try a latte instead of black coffee?" she said with a soft smile, placing the cup in front of him. Tyler looked up, his face lighting up with Lana's smile. "You're probably right. A latte sounds better for this weather." She sat down across from him, wrapping her hands around her own cup for warmth. "You come here quite often. Don't you get tired of it?" Tyler shook his head, gazing out the window. "Sometimes, but the atmosphere here makes me feel at ease. That oak tree," he nodded toward the large oak outside, "reminds me of home." Lana fell silent for a moment, her eyes following his to the oak. "That tree reminds me of the mischievous boy who climbed too high and couldn't figure out how to get down." Tyler laughed. "Who else but me? Do you remember how we used to sit under that tree for hours? You always had your notebook, scribbling things down. I thought you'd become a writer." Lana shrugged. "Maybe I once thought so too, but life sometimes takes us in different directions." Tyler took a sip of his latte, his expression contemplative. "Have you ever thought about going back to Crestwood?" Lana gently shook her head. "I left to find a new beginning, and Atlanta was where I chose to start over." Tyler didn't press further. He understood that everyone had their reasons for leaving the past behind. Sometimes returning wasn't as simple as it seemed. In the days that followed, Tyler and Lana talked more frequently. He shared stories about his work in investment, the projects he was involved in, and how his constant travel left little time for himself. "My job keeps me busy," Tyler admitted one late afternoon. "Investment is a cutthroat business. Every decision can change people's lives." Lana nodded. "Sounds stressful." "Sometimes it is." Tyler smiled but didn't elaborate. He chose not to mention that he was the CEO of a large company in downtown Atlanta. Instead, he kept the conversation light, as if he were just an ordinary man seeking a bit of peace in the quiet cafe. In return, Lana opened up about her early days in the city. "Atlanta isn't as easy to live in as I thought. It's a big place, and sometimes I feel lost." Tyler listened attentively, his eyes reflecting empathy. "But you managed. You built a life here, even if it wasn't easy." "Yes," Lana agreed with a soft smile. "Pine Brew keeps me grounded. Working here makes me feel like I belong somewhere." Their conversations often stretched longer than expected. Lana found herself laughing more around Tyler. There was something comforting about him, as if the years apart had never existed. One late evening, as the cafe neared closing, Tyler was the only customer left. Lana wiped down the counter while Tyler approached, coat in hand. "Want to take a walk?" Tyler asked, his voice warm. "I think there's something nice about walking under the oak trees on a cold night." Lana hesitated briefly before nodding. "All right, but just one lap." They stepped out into the night, walking side by side beneath the dark sky. Oak leaves drifted down around them, and the streetlights cast soft shadows along the cobblestone path. "Thank you for coming back into my life, Tyler," Lana said suddenly, her voice soft. Tyler turned to her, his eyes gentle. Maybe it was fate. Under the large oak tree, they stood quietly, letting the wind weave through the branches. In that moment, beneath the city lights and the faint scent of oak in the air, Lana felt as though she was slowly reclaiming a part of herself she had long forgotten. Chapter 3. Ghosts of the Past, Ethan's Return. Late one evening at Pine Brew, the atmosphere gradually settled as the last customer left the cafe. Lana Pierce exhaled softly, removing her apron and hanging it on the hook by the espresso machine. The cafe had quieted, leaving only the ticking of the wall clock and the soft glow of the lights reflecting on the spotless floor. She dimmed most of the lights, leaving just a small one by the window, and slowly stepped outside. The cold air hit her immediately, and a gust of wind made Lana shiver. She pulled her coat tighter around her, the sound of her boots clicking lightly against the rain-soaked pavement. As Lana crossed the street toward the parking lot, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and glanced at the screen. An unknown number had sent a message. "Hello, Lana. It's been a long time." Lana's grip on the phone tightened instinctively. There was no name attached, but she didn't need to guess. She knew who it was. Ethan. His smile flashed in her mind, gentle but laced with control and haunting words. It had been over 3 years since she'd heard his name, but one simple message was enough to stir up memories she thought she had buried long ago. Lana stood frozen for a moment, her fingers trembling as she typed a short reply. "Don't contact me again." Seconds later, another message appeared. "Don't you miss me? I just want to see you, just once. We need to talk." Lana turned off her phone screen and stuffed it back into her coat pocket. Her pace quickened, heart pounding in her chest. Ethan had once been a significant part of her life, but was also the reason she fled her hometown and moved to Atlanta. 2 days later, Lana began to notice the strange occurrences. Every evening after leaving the cafe, she felt like someone was watching her. She never saw anyone clearly, but fleeting shadows and the sensation of eyes lingering on her made her uneasy. In the mornings, she found multiple messages from unknown numbers. Even though she blocked them, Ethan always found another way to reach her. "You can't hide forever, Lana. We belong together." She endured sleepless nights, haunted by recurring nightmares that left her drenched in cold sweat. One evening, as the cafe was preparing to close, Tyler Brooks walked in as he usually did. The moment he saw Lana, he noticed the exhaustion and weight behind her eyes. "Are you okay?" Tyler placed his cup on the counter and gazed at her with concern. Lana forced a smile, but it quickly faded. "I'm fine. Just tired from work." Tyler remained silent for a moment, his eyes seeming to pierce through the walls she had carefully built. "Lana, you don't have to hide things from me. If something's wrong, I want to help." Lana hesitated. Until now, she had always kept her past to herself, unwilling to let anyone know about Ethan or the real reason she left Crestwood. But under Tyler's patient and sincere gaze, the walls she had constructed seemed to crack. Finally, she sighed and sat down across from him. "Do you remember when I told you leaving Crestwood was the hardest decision I ever made?" Lana's eyes fixed on the rim of her coffee cup, tracing the delicate white porcelain. Tyler nodded. "Yes, you said you needed a fresh start." The new beginning was part of it, but the real reason was Ethan. Tyler's brow furrowed slightly, surprise evident on his face. "Ethan? He was my ex-boyfriend," Lana continued, her voice softening. "At first, everything was fine, but over time, he became controlling. Ethan wanted to know where I was, who I met, and what I did. When I tried to leave, he wouldn't let me. He was abusive, physically and emotionally. Every time I tried to escape, he would find a way to pull me back." Lana's grip on her cup tightened unconsciously. "Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I left town and cut off all contact. It's been 3 years, until last week." Tyler remained silent, his expression darkening as he listened to Lana's words. "He reached out," Lana said, her voice trembling slightly, "sending messages, and I think he's following me." Tyler leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. "Lana, if Ethan is a threat, you don't have to face this alone." "Tyler, I don't want to burden you." Lana shook her head. "This is my problem. You're not a burden." Tyler's voice cut through her protests, his eyes unwavering. "I want to help you. No one should have to live in fear, especially not you." Lana met his gaze, torn between doubt and the desire to trust him. After a moment, she nodded softly. "Thank you, Tyler." Outside the cafe window, the old oak tree stood tall beneath the dim streetlights. But this time, Lana didn't feel so alone. The shadows of the past might have returned, but at least now she knew she didn't have to face them by herself. Chapter 4. Tyler Revealed. Protection and Secrets. The Atlanta sun rose, casting a golden hue over the tall buildings. Early in the morning, Pine Brew was quieter than usual, and Lana was busy rearranging the shelves behind the counter. Tyler Brooks walked in, but this time he didn't head to his usual seat by the window. Instead, he approached the counter directly, placing one hand on the wooden surface, his expression slightly serious. "Are you free after your shift today?" Tyler asked, his voice low but gentle. Lana glanced up, setting the cup she was holding back on the shelf. "I think so. Is something wrong?" "I'd like to take you somewhere," Tyler replied, offering a subtle yet meaningful smile. Curiosity flickered in Lana's eyes, but she didn't question him further. She trusted Tyler, and his presence always made her feel safe. 3 hours later, when Tyler's car stopped in front of a towering glass building in downtown Atlanta, Lana stared up in amazement. The shimmering structure reflected the midday sun, and the words Brooks Capital gleamed prominently on the facade. Tyler led her through the grand lobby, where sharply dressed employees respectfully greeted him. It didn't take long for Lana to realize that Tyler wasn't just an ordinary friend from the past. "This is..." Lana hesitated, her gaze fixed on the company's logo displayed on the main wall. Tyler glanced back, smiling. "My office." She froze in place. "You're the owner of Brooks Capital?" "Yes, but I never thought it was important to mention when I was with you." Lana felt her heart slow. To her, Tyler had always been the same childhood friend, a simple and familiar presence. But standing in this grand office space, she realized he was one of the most influential businessmen in Atlanta. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Lana asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. Tyler held her gaze for a moment before shrugging lightly. "I didn't want money or my career to change the way you saw me. I like how you treat me, like the Tyler you knew from years ago." Lana saw the sincerity in his words. Even surrounded by luxury, Tyler was still the same boy who climbed oak trees with her. They stepped into Tyler's private office, offering a sweeping view of the city skyline. He sat down and gestured for Lana to take a seat across from him. "Now," he began, his eyes darkening slightly, "tell me everything about Ethan." Lana lowered her gaze, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. She didn't want to burden Tyler, but she knew by the look in his eyes that he wouldn't let it go. "He's been texting me," Lana admitted with a sigh, "and lately I feel like someone is following me after I leave the cafe." Tyler leaned back in his chair, his expression growing tense. "I can't let that continue." "Tyler, you don't have to get involved," Lana protested, looking up at him with quiet determination. "This is my problem. I don't want to be a burden." Tyler shook his head. "You're not a burden, Lana. I care about you." Lana opened her mouth to respond but paused. Warmth spread through her chest at his words. "What are you planning to do?" she asked, sensing that Tyler had already thought this through. "First, I'm having my security team watch over you," Tyler replied calmly. "They'll make sure you're safe, even if you don't notice them." Lana's eyes widened. "Tyler, that's not necessary." "Lana," Tyler interrupted, his tone soft yet firm. "I won't stand by while you're in danger. Trust me." Lana couldn't argue with the conviction in his gaze. 3 days later, Lana thought perhaps things would quiet down, but she was wrong. On Saturday afternoon, as Pine Brew filled with customers, the door swung open and a familiar figure stepped inside. Lana froze, recognizing Ethan immediately. He wore a black leather jacket, his dark hair slightly disheveled, but his features were as sharp as ever. Ethan stood at the counter, his gray eyes locking onto Lana's with a faint, unsettling smile. "It's been a while, Lana," Ethan said, his voice sending a chill down her spine. Lana's grip on her apron tightened as she took a deep breath to steady herself. "Ethan, you shouldn't be here." "I just want a cup of coffee. We're old friends, aren't we?" Ethan smirked, but there was a glint of threat in his eyes. Lana glanced around the cafe, hoping Tyler would appear as he often did, but he wasn't there. "Please leave," Lana said softly, her voice trembling. "I will," Ethan shrugged. "Once I finish my coffee." Lana's hands shook as she turned to prepare his drink, but before Ethan could leave, the door opened once more. Tyler stepped inside, his eyes immediately landing on Ethan. Ethan Hale? Tyler's voice cut through the cafe as he crossed the room to stand in front of Ethan. Ethan narrowed his eyes, his smirk widening. Who's asking? Tyler Brooks, Tyler introduced himself. I believe you know that Lana doesn't want to see you. The cafe fell silent, the tension thick. Ethan's eyes darkened as he leaned closer, his tone dropping. And you think you can stop me? If you come near Lana again, Tyler said, his voice calm but unyielding, I won't hold back. Ethan scowled, standing slowly and casting one last glance at Lana. This isn't over. Tyler watched as Ethan exited the cafe before turning to Lana with concern. Are you all right? Lana gave a weak smile, relief flooding her. Thank you, Tyler. Tyler gently took her hand. I told you, I'll protect you. Are you still following the story? If yes, comment Coca-Cola. Haha. Chapter 5. The final confrontation and Ethan's arrest. After the tense encounter at Pine Brew, Ethan did not stop. The threatening messages to Lana became more frequent. Every evening as she left the cafe, she felt the weight of unseen eyes following her from a distance. One late evening, as Lana locked up the cafe for the night, she noticed a car parked at the corner of the street. Its lights were off, but the engine hummed faintly. She tried to ignore it and quickened her pace, but Ethan's familiar silhouette emerged from a nearby alley. Lana, Ethan's voice rang out as he stepped in front of her, blocking her path. We need to talk. Lana took a step back, her hands trembling as she fumbled for her phone in her coat pocket. Ethan, I'm calling the police, she said, her voice shaky. Ethan smirked, taking a step closer. The police can't hold me for long. You know that. Go ahead, try. Lana turned to walk away, but Ethan grabbed her wrist, yanking it sharply and causing her phone to drop to the ground. You can't run forever, Lana, Ethan growled. I just want to take you home. You belong to me, before, now, and always. At the peak of her despair, a voice pierced through the cold night. Let her go. Tyler emerged from the shadows, his eyes cold and burning with fury. You again? Ethan tightened his grip on Lana's wrist, but Tyler didn't flinch. I warned you once, Ethan. Leave her alone or you'll regret it. Ethan let out a dark laugh. You think you can stop me? Lana and I were together. You have no right to come between us. Tyler stepped closer, his gaze razor sharp. No one is coming between anything. Lana left you because of you, Ethan. As Ethan tried to drag Lana along, Tyler lunged forward, forcefully pulling Ethan away from her. Ethan shoved Tyler in retaliation, and the two men faced each other in a tense standoff. Lana trembled with fear, but Tyler positioned himself protectively in front of her. Before Ethan could strike Tyler, a black car screeched to a halt nearby. Two men in dark suits, Tyler's private security team, stepped out and swiftly approached. Ethan Hale? One of the men called out, flashing a police badge. We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of harassment, stalking, and assault. Ethan's eyes narrowed at Tyler. What did you do? Tyler held Lana's shoulder protectively, guiding her behind him. I did what was necessary to keep her safe. Lana watched in silence as Ethan's wrists were cuffed. As he was led to the patrol car, he glanced back, his eyes dark and brimming with hatred. This isn't over, Lana, he muttered. But this time, Lana didn't shiver. She stood tall, and Tyler's reassuring squeeze on her hand grounded her. At the police station, Tyler and Lana provided evidence, including all the threatening messages Ethan had sent over the past few weeks. Security footage from cameras around Pine Brew and reports from Tyler's security team further solidified the case, documenting Ethan's stalking and harassment. Lana was asked to file an official complaint. Though she hesitated at first, she knew it was necessary to put an end to the ordeal. As Lana signed the report, Tyler placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. You're doing the right thing, Lana. This is the first step to ending all of this. With overwhelming evidence against him, Ethan was charged with harassment, invasion of privacy, and violent conduct. He was held in custody, awaiting trial. During the court hearing, Lana sat in the front row with Tyler beside her. As Ethan was convicted and sentenced, Lana felt an immense weight lift off her shoulders. As they left the courthouse, Lana took a deep breath, feeling the crisp air of freedom she had longed for. Tyler smiled at her, taking her hand. You did it! Lana squeezed his hand tightly. I don't know what I would have done without you. You're not alone, Lana. You'll never have to face anything like this by yourself again. Under the oak tree outside Pine Brew, Lana and Tyler sat quietly, watching the sunlight filter through the leaves. The soft rustle of fallen oak leaves brushed against their shoulders, but this time Lana no longer felt afraid. She knew the storm had passed and ahead lay a new beginning, a future she had reclaimed for herself. Chapter 6. Rebirth Beneath the Oak Tree. The weeks following Ethan's arrest passed in a rare peace that Lana Pierce hadn't felt in years. But even in the calm, she couldn't deny the emotional exhaustion left by the confrontation. At night, as she lay in bed in her small apartment, she still dreamed of Ethan's cold gaze. Though he was now behind bars and no longer a direct threat, his shadow lingered in her mind, a reminder of the life she once lived under his control. But amidst those dark dreams, something had changed. Tyler Brooks's hand always appeared, pulling her out of the nightmares. She woke to find his presence still there, if only through simple messages. Did you sleep well? Call me if you need anything. Tyler's quiet but constant presence became the anchor that steadied her each day. 1 month later, the morning sun streamed through Pine Brew's window as Lana stood behind the counter, preparing a latte for a customer. She felt lighter, as if the storm had truly passed. Tyler walked into the cafe, following his usual habit of sitting by the window overlooking the old oak tree outside. He waved at her as he always did, and Lana smiled back. But today there was something different about him. Once the last of the customers had left, Tyler approached the counter and placed his car keys on the wooden surface. Are you free? Tyler asked, his eyes glinting with quiet excitement. Lana narrowed her eyes suspiciously. Where are you taking me this time? Tyler smiled, not denying it. I want to take you somewhere. 2 hours later, Lana gazed out the car window as the rural roads leading back to Crestwood unfolded before her. The familiar landscape felt distant yet nostalgic. Rows of towering oak trees lined the road, and memories of childhood slowly drifted back. The car stopped in front of an open field, where a massive oak tree stood tall beneath the blue sky. Lana stepped out, her eyes locking onto the old tree that had borne witness to countless memories shared between her and Tyler. The oak tree's still here, Lana whispered, brushing her fingers gently against the rough bark. Tyler stood beside her, his gaze soft. I thought you should return to where it all began, the place that made you who you are today. Lana looked at Tyler, a swell of emotion rising in her chest. For the first time in years, she felt as if she had truly returned, not to escape, but to confront her past. Do you remember? Tyler said, his eyes fixed on the high branches. We used to sit here for hours talking about our wildest dreams. Lana chuckled lightly. You always wanted to be an explorer, and I dreamed of becoming a writer. And now we've grown up. Tyler turned to face her, his expression sincere. Slowly, he knelt before Lana and pulled a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. As he opened it, a delicate ring sparkled in the sunlight, reflecting Lana's face through the tiny stones. Lana Pierce, Tyler said softly, his eyes never leaving hers. You've taught me so much about strength, resilience, and standing tall through every storm. Since the day I found you again, I knew I didn't want to live without you. Lana's breath caught, her heart racing. I don't just want to protect you, Tyler continued. I want to walk beside you through every road ahead. Will you marry me? Lana stood still for a moment. The old oak tree above seemed to shield them, and she knew that no matter what lay ahead, Tyler would always stand by her. A smile broke across her lips, tears shimmering in her eyes. Yes, I will. Tyler rose, slipping the ring onto her finger before wrapping his arms around her beneath the lush canopy of the oak tree. A few months later, their wedding was simple yet intimate, held beneath the oak tree where Tyler had proposed. Friends, family, and loved ones gathered in the golden afternoon light to witness the sacred moment when Lana and Tyler became husband and wife. As twinkling lights hung from the oak's branches, Lana rested her head on Tyler's shoulder, swaying gently as they danced. She glanced up, meeting his tender gaze. Thank you, Lana whispered. For what? Tyler asked softly. For always being by my side, for pulling me out of the darkness. Tyler squeezed her hand, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. Thank you, Lana, for letting me love and protect you. Beneath the strong, unwavering oak tree, they embarked on a new chapter, a chapter filled with light, love, and the peace Lana had long yearned for. Thank you for following this story. Please rate it from 1 to 5 stars, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our Soul Stories channel. Your support is the motivation for us to continue bringing more great stories. Haha.